Welcome back. It is Marsh and Mello, TSN 1150 in Hamilton. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. We are joined now on the line by Krista Duchene, Olympic marathon runner, mom of three, which I actually think is maybe more impressive than the Olympic marathon runner, Kyle, because mom of three, oof, you know any of the moms that have 2, 3 kids. That's like running a marathon every single day. And a registered dietitian as well, as she is joining us here to talk about all things raising young athletes. Krista, thanks for giving us a couple minutes of your time. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Do you agree with me that being a mom of three is like running a marathon before we get into some of the raising young athletes conversation?
Well, there are definitely marathon moments to being a mom of three, but I mean, I love it. And I've been running for so long that the kids have come in the middle of it. Now they're getting older, and it's all just normal, the routine that we have.
Krista, I know you're here to talk about raising young athletes. Your children, do you see them down the road becoming athletes themselves?
Well, I guess it's safe to say that they're athletes already. We have 2 that are in rep hockey and 1 that's in competitive swimming, and then they do school sports. So, yeah, we're pretty busy at the swimming pool and the rink already.
Now, I know I was a kid, whether it was grains, vegetables, anything when I was growing up, where I was kind of picky. I was not that easy to be able to work with. For you, how do you use tips and tricks for eating healthy as a professional athlete when you are raising your kids? Because you're constantly on the go. I'm sure you're running around, taking care of all sorts of different things, and also trying to lead this life as a professional marathon runner. For you, what tips and tricks are there that anybody out there can use to be able to make this a reality where they don't have to be a professional runner, but they're just trying to stay healthy and do things in their life that allows them to be able to actually stay healthy?
Well, I think a main thing is it has to be a priority. I know some people rush through meals so that they can sit down and, watch TV for 2 hours in the evening, and just taking a bit more time to plan ahead, that's definitely key. And a big part, I think, is just that I model the behavior like many things as being a parent. When your kids see you doing something, eventually they start to do that without you putting it on them or forcing it.
Right.
So, we have lots of healthy options on the table, foods that they're familiar with, foods that they're not. I don't have a special diet that I sit and eat on my own. So, they've got choices, but also I'm not a short order cook that goes to the kitchen and makes 5 meals for 5 people.
Now, talking about grains specifically, it all comes in moderation, right? Like that's the best meal plan?
Oh, for sure. I mean, all foods fit. No dietitian will say you can't have whatever. In fact, when we have forbidden foods, the first thing we want to do is eat those foods. So, the way we make grains fit in our family meals is things like make your own wraps, make your own sandwiches, where we just put all the different toppings and fillings and sauces on the table, and everyone just throws together what they like. And then we do a lot of hot breakfast, French toast, waffles, pancakes, some of those things that you can put in school lunches. And one thing that we really like is just having fresh buns to go with a meal. And, you can throw it on the side if you've got something from the barbecue or whatnot.
She is Krista Duchene joining us here on TSN 1150 in Hamilton, Marsh and Mello, as we're talking about raising young, healthy athletes here on the show. The raising of young athletes, the tips and tricks that you use to make sure they are staying active and healthy. It doesn't sound like your kids. I'm guessing in the environment you've created for them, it's very tough for you to try and keep them active and healthy. But for you, is there anything that you could tell other people where you're like, you know what, this makes it easier to be able to make them active, healthy, and also wanting to be able to kind of eat the things that will help them be active and healthy?
Again, I think it goes back to that modeling the behavior. When we have, a cigarette in our mouth and maybe not the healthiest food every day, it's pretty difficult for a kid to say, don't do what I'm doing. You should do your life this way. Whereas when they see you live a certain way, they naturally, become like that. As much as we don't maybe want to be like our parents, we often are. So setting a good example. And, in terms of physical activity and being active, I think that we've gone toward this prescriptive way of living where we have to go to the gym and count the number of minutes and get our heart rate. Just get outside and just move a bit more than you did the day before. Go outside as a family and do whatever works, what you want to do to keep you active. And it's got to be fun. If you're walking out the door to do some sort of activity that you just dread, it's better to do something that you are going to enjoy, even if it, doesn't give you the workout that maybe you think that you need.
Krista, are you still in training?
Yes, I'm in the peak of training right now because I'm doing the Berlin Marathon in 4.5 weeks.
Wow.
So if you're doing the marathon, obviously you're eating very healthy. Do your kids follow your diet?
Well, like I said before, I don't have the specific diet that I eat on my own, but there's a lot of, good healthy options on our table that they can choose from. So, one thing that I have that they don't particularly like is like a green smoothie in the morning with spinach and berries and Greek yogurt and that kind of thing. But, one of my kids started adding, one spinach leaf at a time to their smoothie. And that's, what I keep going to about living by example, and your kids will eventually follow suit.
Kyle's laughing here in the studio, Krista, because he laughs at me every single day when I come in with a Greek yogurt, dark berry spinach smoothie.
It's the Marshall Ferguson special.
It really is. I was gonna my follow up for you on that was gonna be, as a registered dietitian, what advice would you give to people who come in at ungodly hours and sit down and are on their backsides for several hours in a row and don't get a chance to eat a normal life 3 meals a day, and they have weird sleep schedules? Because that's us, but I guess having that smoothie helps.
Yeah, routine is really key to a healthy lifestyle. That's one of the first things I ask people when I meet with them is, what time do you wake up in the morning, and when is the first time that you eat? So if we can go to bed at a decent time, sleep well, wake up around the same time, and eat within a half an hour, we're already winning in terms of setting a good routine for the rest of the day. It's the long message that we've heard for so many years about the benefit of a healthy breakfast. And, it's over and over again, we hear that, and there's so much truth to that.
The idea of fasted cardio, is that a fad, or what is that for people in the mornings? Because, the idea of, we were always told growing up that you got to have your breakfast before you go to school, and you got to be able to have that routine, that consistency. And all of a sudden, all these people started showing up on Instagram that had abs popping out all over the place. They're like, I don't eat until noon. Is that a thing, or what is that?
Well, definitely the fasting is a bit of a trend right now. And, if you're going to be active first thing in the morning and it's going to upset your stomach to eat something, then go out and do your activity and then come back and eat your breakfast. But the thing is, within a 24-hour period, your body needs so much food to recover, to fuel the activity you're doing, to think, to breathe, that, no matter how much we play around with it and use apps and complicate it, at the end of the day, moderation and consistency is always the best message. It's just not the newest fancy message that is trendy like these other things. Okay,
that makes way more sense the way you described that. As Krista Duchene joins us here on behalf of Grain Farmers of Ontario. The last one that I have for you, Krista, is you talked about your kids there being very active and being in a couple of different sports and being able to achieve things. I read on your personal website that in April 2014, and I hate to bring this up in case it is something that you do not like to look back on, but in terms of being a mom of 3, I read that in 2014, you actually broke your femur while defending your title at the Canadian Half Marathon Championships in Montreal. You finished the race hopping on the other leg. If I am ever your kid and I complain about anything and you tell me that as I'm growing up, I'm doing whatever you want me to do. That is an unbelievable thing to have accomplished.
Well, the thing is, at the time, I had no idea it was happening. And still to this day, childbirth is by far the most painful experience I've ever been in my life. So honestly, I was like, okay, giving birth was worse. So when I'm finishing the race, it didn't even occur to me to quit. Now, had I known that I had a stress fracture that turned to a full fracture that required emergency surgery, of course I would have stopped. But when you're a marathoner, you train your mind so much to just fight through. And, looking back, it's painful to watch. I'm crossing the finish line to Eye of the Tiger, and I collapse into the arms of the race director. I mean, it's not pretty, but, definitely my kids, if they're hurt or if they need something, then I care for them. But our oldest son, who doesn't tend to complain too much, he did have a broken arm for a couple of days, and then finally we took him to emergency. We realized he wasn't using it. But, that's not the norm.
Krista, we thank you for the time. We thank the Grain Farmers of Ontario for being able to make you available to us. We wish you all the best as well moving forward into Berlin. If you want to check out any of her bio, support her in any way, KristaDuchene.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.